following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader when the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
You should be here. You should be here with me, baby. Girl, you know you drive me crazy. You should be here. Ooh, girl, I just want to drive you. You should be here in the morning time when I'm making my breakfast. You should be here beneath me to feel me, to heal me. You should be here to wrap me, to trap me, then climb me. You should be here. I'm a good man and I work hard on my night job. You should be. Let me show you what you're missing every day. You should be. Once I hit you, you ain't never gonna walk away. You should be. Well, I got more than just a big stick and some money. Girl, I wish you should be here. You should be here. You should be here.
Woo! Raphael Sadiq. That's right, you should be here in real time with Areva Martin. And I thank you for joining me, your special guest host, Farajii Muhammad, right here on KBLA 1580 AM, where we're unapologetically progressive and we don't black down. We are continuing the conversation, folks. Make sure y'all do your due diligence and show your support and love and stay connected to all of the great things that are happening with KBLA. We got so many great things happening. And I can't name them all because we only have a short period of time. But I would highly advise that you go to our website at KBLA1580.com. Download the app at KBLA 1580 on all of your devices. Follow us on social media at KBLA 1580 on Instagram and on X and everywhere. And follow Areva Martin. Make sure you follow my sister Areva Martin because she's doing some phenomenal work. Make sure you follow the fantastic voices of Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and all of the dynamic voices that we have here on KBLA. And if you want to, you could follow me. You could follow me. So you can follow me at The Real Farajii on Instagram and on the X platform at Farajii, and I would love to connect with you. Folks, you should be here because this is the only place where you're going to get that news and information like no other. And this is a fantastic time for us to have these conversations, and I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very happy that I am here with you today. Andy, you got something?
Real quick, Brother Farajii.
Yes.
Yes. Shout out to you for, sharing your social media stuff. I've been following you for a long time.
Right. Thank you.
But I don't know if it's me, my connection with you, or I don't know if anybody else has been going through this.
Yes.
But I get a lot of fake pages.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? That's mocking you. So if you could just, share your social media handles one more time. Only because I done got so many familiar Farajii Muhammad's requests.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm dead serious.
Hey, let me tell you
just
something.
in case anybody's going through
that,
the same
Andy.
thing, I just want to put that out there.
My guy, Andy, always looking out, man. That's what a brother's supposed to do. The Real Farajii, Farajii. That's the real Farajii, not the other Farajii, but the real Farajii. That's actually what my handle is, the real Farajii. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and at Farajii on the X platform. And if you don't see KBLA, if you don't see Tavis Smiley, if you don't see nothing connected to this fantastic platform of KBLA 1580 on the page, because I put it on a page, then you shouldn't be there. That's what it is. That you shouldn't be there. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. All right, folks, let's continue the conversation. I am very excited to be checking in with my brother. This man has been doing educational work for many, many years. He served as a lecturer at Loyola University in my home state, the great state of Maryland. He's held a faculty appointment at Howard University, and he has nearly a decade of experience working in rural, urban, and suburban school districts. He is also an author. He's written several op-eds for the Orlando Sentinel, among other platforms. He's co-edited 2 books. And so we're happy to have him joining us tonight to talk to us a little bit about the educational policies that impact black students. I'm joined by my brother, Dr. Larry Walker. Dr. Walker, how are you, sir?
Good, brother. It's good to talk to you. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It has been a while, dear brother. Thank you once again for joining the conversation about this. I want to start where we ended with my brother, Chris Walton. I want to start with talking a little bit about the 70th anniversary of the Brown versus Board of Education decision. That was a landmark ruling, major decision, and I want to kind of get your take on that. But before we get to your take, Dr. Walker, I want to play with the Secretary of Education, Mr. Miguel Cardona, had to say as we honor and acknowledge that ruling, and more importantly, honor those black children who transformed America. This is what he had to say today.
Look, their bravery changed this country. Brown v. Board of Education sent a message, and it set a marker for what we consider normal and acceptable. Brown versus Board and its legacy remind us of who we want to be as a nation, a place that upholds values of justice and equity as its highest ideals. Over the course of the last 70 years, we've often struggled to live up to those ideals. Black students may no longer need to be escorted to school by U.S. Marshals, and they may no longer face angry mobs on their way to school or eat at separate lunch tables. But today, we have a system where we have normalized underinvesting in schools that serve a majority black communities. We've normalized a culture of low expectations for some students. And then we give them inadequate resources and support. Today, it's still become all too normal for some to deny the legacies of racism and segregation, or ban books that teach black history, when we all know that black history is American history.
That was Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona. Dr. Walker, we're going to take another quick pause. When we come forward, I want to get your take on what the Secretary of Education had to say, and let's continue the conversation about the 70th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education decision. Stay with us. It's Areva Martin in real time here on KBLA 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. First, thank you for your support of KBLA Talk 1580. We deeply appreciate you. So, I get asked all the time, Tavis, when are you going to bring back that State of the Black Union Symposium you used to do? You know the one where you had all those black intellectuals on stage every year and everybody watched all day live on C-SPAN? Yeah, I know the one.
Let's bring them back.
Well, I am pleased to tell you that if you go to KBLA1580.com right now, you can sign up to be in the audience here in Los Angeles when we go back live on C-SPAN with a stage full of black thinkers and influencers for a historic conversation. America has never seen a stage full of black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's going down Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. Once we reach capacity, you'll have to watch us on C-SPAN. But if you want to be in the room when we go live from Los Angeles, Tuesday, June 18th, head to KBLA1580.com right now to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. With KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
I believe up there. Hey!
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8-count pack.
1 in 3 children born today will get diabetes. This sad prediction by the Centers for Disease Control will come true if millions of Americans don't improve their lifestyles, especially by changing what they eat, how much they eat, and how active they are every day. Every 23 seconds, another American gets diabetes. Stop diabetes before it starts. To learn more, contact the American Diabetes Association or download our free diabetes education programs at learningaboutdiabetes.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, home of the 2024 Climate Justice Campaign.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And folks, we are back. I'm your special guest host, Farajii Muhammad, as I'm sitting in for my sister Areva Martin here on Areva Martin in real time. I am joined by Dr. Larry Walker, who is a professor, lecturer, educator, as well as an author, as we talk a little bit about education and, more importantly, the policies of education and how they impact black students. I want you to join us as we are streaming right now live on KBLA 1580 AM on our YouTube channel, and join us in the conversation. But Dr. Walker, again, thank you so much, brother, for joining us for the conversation. I wanted to kind of get your take on what we played from Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona today. Along with him, Attorney General Merrick Garland gave some remarks in honor and acknowledgement of this week's 70th anniversary of the Brown versus Board decision. And we're looking at the state of education in America, Dr. Walker. And I want to kind of get your take on this, because many would say that we have made some gains, where others would say that the gains that we made were retract because of what we're seeing in states around this country. Yes, we can go to school with white people, but the resources, the standards, all of the things that we relied upon is still keeping us in a place where we're seen as inferior in some way, shape, or form, that we're not making the type of progress that we need to make. What do you make of this, what has happened to the state of education over these past 70 years?
Yeah, and I think this is a really important question. And, first, the Secretary's comments, I agree with a lot what he said. The one point he made that caused me to pause was when he said we continuously had low expectations for essentially he's talking about black children. But it's important to be clear. Black folks we've always had high expectations for our kids. And that is why black folks, when we're given the opportunity, regardless of, whether it's business or education or law or finance, we excel. So I think it's really important to kind of get that out of the way. I think the other thing is you highlight a really important point in 70 years since Brown v. Board of Education in terms of where are we today? Because what I described is there's an attempt for a Jim Crow remix. And essentially through banning books, I'm in the state of Florida, which leads the nation in banning books, is an attempt to erase of the years, centuries of oppression that Black folks have experienced. And while we celebrate the 70 years, we have to acknowledge that Black children are more likely to be suspended and expelled, not just in pre-K through 12, but also in higher. I'm a professor, a professor, and Black students still encounter a number of challenges on college campuses. I think the other thing to keep in mind is the Secretary is right. We, unfortunately, predominantly Black and other minoritized communities still don't get the necessary funding they need. And on top of that, I'm going to use an example we just saw recently at the school board in Virginia when they went back and decided to Confederate former leaders of the Confederacy, after the names were removed from schools, to go back and add those names in 2024. So there's a culture in this society that wants to continue to rewrite history. And part of that is also undermining efforts to continue to educate Black students and other, like I said, underserved populations. And like I said, Jim Crow remix, we are seeing a fight to undermine policies that have certainly led to some progress, but at the same time be mindful that if we are not very careful in the next couple of months, that we could find ourselves in a very difficult situation as educated, and when it comes to education and other issues throughout our society.
And Doc, what would you say should be? I mean, because you just gave us like a broad look at where we are with this educational system, and there are so many dynamics, right? Like when we talk about educating Black children in particular in this country, I mean, I think I've probably heard the gambit of how where we should start, who should be responsible, who should lead the way, how we should move forward. There are so many different elements, and if you were to ask Black parents or Black caretakers or Black guardians or just Black folks in general, what does education for Black children should look like, we're going to get a million different answers. So what would you say, based upon your experience and your expertise, where do we start with this? Looking at 70 years ago, we were in a separate but equal educational system. And now, even though we're integrated into the system, we're still not making the gains that we need to make. So where did we start?
Yeah, I think this is an important point. So I'm going to give you a few different perspectives.
Sure.
So I also, spent 5.5 years working as a senior, staffer on Capitol Hill, right? So I've seen the education challenges from multiple perspectives. So the reason why I mention that is because in terms of education is political, right? So you'll hear people, when they talk about education, kind of treat it as a separate piece. But as we were discussing, Brown v. Board of Education was a political issue, right? It went to the Supreme Court, but it was a reversal of Plessy versus Ferguson. Education is a political issue. So the first component is that we have to, and I just mentioned school board in Virginia, we have to make sure that parents and members of the community understand what their superintendent, their local school board, the member, county commissioner, city councilman, all the way up to the governor of their state. We have to make sure we apply political pressure to make sure we get the resources that we need for our children. The second part of that is, as it relates to pre-K through 12 systems, we have to make sure that we continue to recruit and retain Black teachers. We know statistically from all the research that students, even white students, perform better when they have Black teachers, those who have similar lived experiences and that recognize Black students' brilliance. Because as I mentioned earlier, far too often our students are suspended, expelled disproportionately when it's often a misunderstanding of cultural norms and also racial bias.
Right.
And I think that the third piece of this is that Black folks have to be willing to. I'm going to give an example. We had talked about freedom schools, right? We still have some of those throughout the country, but during some of these breaks and even during summer breaks, we need to continue to replicate that example of freedom school. I was blessed years ago to work with a freedom school project when I was finishing up my undergraduate in my hometown of Philadelphia. So we need to kind of replicate these projects, these community-based projects in which we invest, we pour into our own kids by centering within their lived experience, like what it means to be Black in America, but not just the suffering, but focus on the greatness that we witnessed in the past and some of that greatness we continue to see in today's society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For folks that you're just tuning in, we're talking to educator and author Dr. Larry Walker as we talk about the 70th anniversary of the Brown versus Board of Education, a decision that has transformed America. And I'm going back to, in the first half, Doc, we played a piece from Attorney General Merrick Garland, and he made the point at today's event, along with, as he sat with Secretary Cardona, he made the point that it was on the backs of Black children, and I don't want people to lose sight of this. It was on the backs of 5-year-olds to transform the American educational system for the better for all people. The backs of 5- and 6-year-old elementary age school children who had to walk in and among soldiers with guns, who had to walk up to the schools and to endure being called all type of racial slurs, who had to have the inner confidence to withstand the hatred of a country and of a people who did not see them as human beings. And if it wasn't for those elementary age school children, we can't talk about having an innovative, progressive educational system. Now, those school children, they are grown adults. Some of them have transitioned to become the part of the ancestors. But I just could not imagine putting that type of burden on a child. And they took the burden, Dr. Walker, and they carried that burden, Dr. Walker. And guess what? The educational system has not rewarded them for the courage, for their pain. It has not rewarded them for their sacrifice. What do we as Black folks coming years later, looking back 70 years, how do we do our part to reward them?
Yeah, and that's a really important point. And to your point, I'm gonna go back to the year 1954. We talk about Brown v. Board of Education. It was also important because it's the same year Ruby Bridges was born, and we know that 6 years later that she was one of the first Black children to integrate in elementary school in New Orleans, Louisiana. And why I bring up Ruby Bridges is because a lot of times people when they think of Ruby Bridges and integrating the first school in the Deep South, in terms of I don't think we've given her flowers enough. The other thing is people often think that Ruby Bridges is joined the ancestors. Let me tell you something. Ruby Bridges and my mother were born the same year.
Wow.
And I've given presentations, and when I show that picture and tell some people know who she is, but the majority of people don't. And then I remind them when we have conversations about de jure segregation, particularly in education or on the buses, et cetera, I can talk to my mother or my aunt or other family members.
That's how close we are. So that just goes to show you that we're not far from this situation.
Not at all. We all know, brother. We all have family members that lived during segregation.
Come on.
And I think that Americans, once again, we have the idea about this idea of erasure. And when I would do a lot of my writing as a researcher, I centered in history because oftentimes when we look at contemporary issues, like when we look at 70 years out, once again, we got to make sure Ruby Bridges is a 6-year-old. And one of the things I think about, you've seen this and many other Americans have, is that painting by Norman Rockwell, the problem we all live with, which shows a 6-year-old, Ruby Bridges, being escorted by U.S. Marshals just because her parents wanted her to get a fair and equal education in a society that Black folks have built since the 1600s.
I want to also throw it out there too, Doc, that this movement didn't just happen with one person. Like when you look at the civil rights movement and for all of our history buffs and historians out there, we recognize that this movement was a collaboration of many different pieces and people. And that's one of the things that I'm glad that the event that the White House held today, I'm glad that they highlighted. There were a number of black children all over this country that took the same walk, whether they were in Little Rock, whether they're in other parts of the South and here on the West Coast and in the East. There were a number of black children in Boston and other places. There were a number of black children. So this wasn't just in one situation where the rest of the country was in one place and then, deep down in the South, there was another condition. No. You saw this all around the country. And I got to take a quick pause, but when we come forward, Dr. Walker, I want to kind of get your take on that to understand that this was a movement, that this wasn't just one person. This were individuals, and a lot of them children. Let's get back to that. A lot of them children, but these were families sacrificed their children, black families, mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles, grandparents and grandmothers and grandfathers, sacrificed their babies for this. And when we look at the history and understand how much of a movement this really was, I think we'll have even more vigor and more fight in us, because I think, y'all, some of us have lost the energy and the spirit to fight. We're going to continue the conversation with Dr. Larry Walker and with you right here on Areva Martin in real time on KBLA 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Schools and first responders will benefit from a budget Richmond, Virginia's mayor calls historic. The city council has approved the fiscal year 2025 budget that'll take effect July 1st. It's almost $3 billion and includes more funding for schools and salaries for city employees like police officers and firefighters. Mayor LeVar Stoney, who is black, says the budget includes historic levels of funding, lifts up Richmonders, and provides them with the opportunities to succeed. South suburban Dayton, Illinois officials are appointing a mayor pro tem to conduct official business when the mayor is absent. Embattled Dayton Mayor Tiffany Henyard was not in attendance as trustees voted to appoint Jason House to the position. The vote came as Henyard, who is black, is under investigation over a series of allegations of impropriety and corruption. Trustees claim she has missed a number of special meetings and refuses to allow some business to be put on the agenda during regular meetings. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
There's a new stall now in Sherman Oaks on the 405 northbound. This is just after Burbank Boulevard, blocking the carpool lane, so you're backed up to Washington Boulevard. A stall in Sylmar on the 5 northbound just before the 210. Luckily, that one got pushed out of lanes over to the right-hand shoulder, but you're still seeing brake lights once you hit Brand. A new stall as well in Elysian Park on the 5 northbound at the 110. The middle of the roadway is where that conked out, and unfortunately, it's going to add to that slow drive from the 101. Head through Torrance on the southbound side of the 405 at Western. A crash now in the 2 right-hand lanes. So right now, everything's starting to back up once you hit the 10.
A word from Original Taco Pete, where Tuesdays are all about $2 tasty black tacos. Join us today and every day at 3272 West Slauson Ave off Crenshaw, or order through Grubhub, Uber Eats, or OriginalTacoPete.com.
Don't miss your chance to spring into deals at Lowe's. Right now, get 2 1.5-gallon annual hanging baskets for $20. Lowe's knows spring. Offer valid through 5/15, in-store only. Actual plant size and selection varies by location. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii while supplies last.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A highly anticipated WNBA season tips off today with 4 games on the schedule. The 2-time defending champion Las Vegas Aces are at home tonight against the Phoenix Mercury. The LA Sparks open up Wednesday night. They'll be at home against the Atlanta Dream. The game will be played at the Pyramid at Long Beach State, 7 p.m. tip-off. Tiger Woods is getting in some practice rounds in preparation for the PGA Championships. The PGA starts Thursday in Louisville. 4 of Tiger's 15 major titles have come at the PGA. Tiger hasn't won a major event since the Masters in 2019. Injuries have the 47-year-old Tiger in a slump. He hasn't had a top 20 finish in his last 15 tournaments. Important day for Bronny James. Today is the first first day, LeBron's son competed in 5-on-5 scrimmages at the NBA Scouting Combine in Chicago. Details on Bronny's performance tomorrow. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit lafla.org. lafla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm your special guest host, Farajii Muhammad, sitting in for my sister, Areva Martin. And this is, in fact, and we are, in fact, in real time. And I'm checking in with the live chat on our KBLA 1580 YouTube channel. And I see, man, some familiar names is in the chat right now. I see Pretty Brown Mimi 726. Mimi! You have found us, Mimi. Mimi, you have found us. Thank you so much for checking in. Howard Graves, thank you so much for joining me for the first hour as well as the second hour. So thank you so much. Lori Parks, I see you. Yes, ma'am, Lori. This is where we have landed here in Los Angeles, KBLA 1580. Make sure you stay tuned for all the great stuff we're doing. And Anastasia Pageant, Anastasia, I appreciate you, sis, as always. And y'all just checking in. One of the great, these are great folks that have been supporting me all through this time as part of my online culture crew. And they've just been doing some fantastic work. Been there from the beginning. They've been there from the beginning, Andy.
Is this your new spot right now?
This is just letting them know that I see them and they see me, and we're gonna be all good, brother. We're gonna be all good.
We thought we had a new show with Farajii.
Oh no! This is Areva Martin in real time.
Shout out to Areva.
Shout out to Areva. Make sure y'all follow her on all social media, as well as yours truly, the real Farajii, on Instagram as well as on the X platform. Now we're also joined by my brother, Dr. Larry Walker. Dr. Walker is an educator, professor, and he is an author. As we talk about this historic day that's coming up on Friday, which will make it 70 years since the Brown versus Board of Education decision, that major landmark ruling that had declared that separate but unequal doctrine unconstitutional, and it transformed the educational landscape here in America. Some say for the better, others say very few things have changed. But guess what? Change definitely happened as a result of that. Dr. Walker, I want to bring it back to you because as we were talking and I was just expressing, I don't want a lot of our people to lose sight of what took place 70 years ago, the sacrifices that our black families made putting their babies there, and these babies became students of a system. And even though we're looking at it 70 years ago, it's the black student has always played a major role in ensuring civil rights and assuring the human rights of our people by putting themselves out there. And I'm thinking of even up to this day, Doc, when you have these college protests on black college, some are on PWIs and some very few black colleges, but we have these college protests today. So what do we make of that in terms of how do we make sure that as we're talking about improving the educational system in this country, that we are supportive of black students, that we make sure that black students are heard and seen and felt? What's your take on that, Doc?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I teach at a large, PWI, and it is important for black students to make sure that they are seen. And this is an issue throughout our educational system. And it's certainly reflected in the challenges, like I said, the black students, whether you talk about high school, middle school, elementary, or college, even graduate school, they talk about, their lived experiences and the challenges they encounter with racism. But I think one of the things that's really important in terms of, throughout U.S. history, other folks have not valued us, right? Mm-hmm. We're continuously being dehumanized. And that's why, in my opinion, the linkages that we develop among ourselves are really important, that we have to support each other, whether it's through some kind of social organization or it's through something you create yourself. And so it's really important, like I said, that we support each other. Like you, brother, I've seen the last week, a number of, social media posts of black students graduating from undergrad, graduate school, professional school. Mm-hmm. And it warms my heart. But one of the things I noticed is in some of those posts is students describe the challenges they had to navigate. And, some of those challenges, well, for me, even articulated, are rooted in a system that doesn't see the humanity of black folks.
Absolutely.
But somehow we're able still to navigate those challenges and still end up being successful.
Absolutely. And speaking of graduations, Morehouse has been in the news as a result of their invitation to President Biden to come and speak and give their commencement address. However, they're still sticking with it. However, in spite of that invitation, a lot of students and some faculty members are not happy with the decision to hear from the president because of his stance relating to the conflict in Gaza. And they have it was reported that the White House had sent a representative to Morehouse to try to quell the concerns there. Do you think that Morehouse could be a turning point in this conversation about student protests, about shifting the narrative about what's really happening, what we're currently seeing on these college campuses? Can Morehouse kind of lead the way in having these conversations in a different way without the protests, but show that, look, we really do need to have a straight up conversation, because these are young people whose future is in the hands of President Biden? What's your take?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And let me first say, like I said, look, I worked on the Hill for 5.5 years. I was a bit surprised that he's, I'm certainly there was a conversation in the White House and Morehouse president and senior leaders. I was surprised that they extended that invite. And I understand it's an election year, and Georgia is a very important state for President Biden. And I'm a HBCU alum, and HBCUs have a long history of civil activism. So, and Morehouse in particular has produced Dr. King, Maynard Jackson, who's the first black mayor of Atlanta, among other, political and civic activists. So it has a long history. So I was rather surprised that, that invitation was obviously certainly made in the White House accepted. I don't know how much sending a representative is, and I believe it was a brother they sent, which makes sense. I'm not sure how much that's going to quell. Without a doubt, you will see some protests on graduation day. And let's be clear, regardless of what's happening, it is your fundamental right to protest. That is a core tenet of our democracy. And so I would expect some Morehouse students certainly to take issue with President Biden, coming, speaking at graduation. And I would expect some protests, which is consistent with Morehouse's history, producing, like I said, activists.
Absolutely. We're talking about, folks, Steve Benjamin, who heads the White House Office of Public Engagement. He met with students at Morehouse this week and along with some faculty members to hear their concerns. The students told Mr. Benjamin they do not want to hear a campaign speech. And he said in turn that he tried to assure the students that the president's appearance at their graduation would focus on celebrating their accomplishments and his hope for their futures. And it's going to be interesting. There were 9 students, Doc, and 9 students and faculty members that attended this meeting with Mr. Steve Benjamin. The meeting was scheduled for 90 minutes, but lasted more than 2 hours. And the official said that the group represented a range of views on the college's decision to have Biden deliver his 2024 commencement address. From those who are looking forward to Biden's address to others who have concerns or oppose the decision, according to the report from NBC News. So this is of great concern. Talk to me about the politics and the optics of this very quickly before we take our next pause. The politics and the optic of this is that you're sending a black man to a black school to pave the way, to cut through the shrubs and to make everybody happy, that an older white president wants to speak to them. How does that look? How does that come across, do you think, to the students of Morehouse?
Yeah, I think it is important. I think it's important the White House send a representative and somebody who understands, who can speak to the students in a way they understand. But I don't, let me be clear politically. President Biden needs young people to come out and vote in November. And if he's going to make a speech at Morehouse, like I said, it's a history of activism, I think it's going to be important for him to announce some additional steps he plans to take to address these challenges in Israel right now that will satisfy those individuals in the audience. Otherwise, he will definitely see some individuals get up and turn their backs, whatever kind of protest they will utilize. But he's going to have to come with some concrete solutions. There's some sharp brothers at Morehouse. So he just can't come and, it's kind of, obviously, his domestic policies are excellent, but there are a lot of concerns among young people, particularly young black people in the community, voters, about his international policy. So he's going to have to come up with some concrete explanations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just want to make a note that President Obama is the only other president to speak at the Morehouse graduation. So this president is coming behind some big shoes of his predecessor, and he's coming in during a very, very tense moment in U.S.-Israel relationship history. So this is a time for him to really show up and show out, to really make the point. But I'm going to side with the students. I'm going to side with the students, Dr. Walker, that keep putting the pressure on. And I know we got to take a quick pause, but I want to make this point very clear. I think that we do ourselves a disservice if we try to silence the voice of the next generation. Silence their voice to the point where we just tell them to learn how to be quiet so they can go along to get along. I think those days are over, brother. You got 30 seconds, Doc. What's your take on that?
No, I agree with you 110%. I mean, like I said, you go to Morehouse College with a history of producing activists. You have got to expect protests, and President Biden is going to be prepared for that, but he needs to offer concrete solutions.
Absolutely. Look, folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk about the protests. I'm going to share with you what is a law that is being under scrutiny as students are making their voices heard and speaking truth to power. Stay with us. The conversation will continue on the other side here on the Areva Martin in real time here on KBLA 1580 AM.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
If your Medi-Cal is ending, Cover California is here to help. Cover California is a service from the state that helps you get affordable health insurance. In many cases, at no cost to you, just like with Medi-Cal. We have quality health plans, and we'll help you every step of the way to get the one that works for you and your family. So, if you're no longer eligible for Medi-Cal, check out Cover California. We'll keep you covered. Learn more at coveredca.com.
The news on vapes talks a lot about the technology and teen use, but parents need to know more about the dangers of nicotine. So know this. 1. Nicotine is a poison that can rewire teens' brains. 2. It can increase mood swings. 3. It can limit attention and learning. So even when it comes in new tech, nicotine is brain poison. Go to undo.org for more.
Presenting Again Fling's love story. Dear love of my life, we were on the 12B bus this morning when I caught a whiff. A scent so fresh, so life-changing, I had to find its source. Alas, I didn't know if you were the woman in the pink freshly washed cardigan or the retired mailman next to me, but I knew one of you was my soulmate. Ah, the scent of Gain Flings. Try Gain Flings with OxyBoost and Febreze.
Linking social justice and climate justice all year long. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007, they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA CAN believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
That's right, folks. We are getting back in the present with Areva Martin in real time. I'll be a special guest host for Farajii Muhammad. I've been enjoying the conversation with my brother, Dr. Larry Walker, and, of course, with you. Big shout-out to the folks that are in the chat right now on KBLA 1580 AM on our YouTube channel. So thank y'all so much for checking in. I see you. Crystal Coleman, I see you. Hey, Crystal. Mr. Paul Lee, thank you for telling people to hit that thumbs up. on the YouTube channel. Thank you. We truly appreciate it. Dr. Walker, let's as we close this thing out, I wanted to talk a little bit about a law that is in the state of state of Ohio, where the Ohio Attorney General, who is a Republican, his name is Mr. Dave Yost, has issued a warning to student protesters as we're talking about this en masse, that any student protesters en masse could face felony charges under the anti-KKK law. Mr. Yost, who has advised the presidents of Ohio's 34 public four-year universities, which his office represents, to forewarn students about this 1953 law. And basically, it's his way of trying to bring some order and manage these student protesters that are protesting the war in Gaza. He sent out a letter this week on Monday, after weeks of course, pro-Palestinian campus protests. He advised these college presidents about the law. He said, quote, in his letter, "In our society, there are few more significant career records than a felony charge. I write to you today to inform your student bodies of an Ohio law that in the context of some behavior during the recent pro-Palestinian protests could have that effect." Woo! He said the law is contained in a single sentence. No person shall unite with two or more others to commit a misdemeanor while wearing white caps, mask, or other disguise. Violating this anti-disguise law is punishable by a fourth-degree felony charge, up to $5,000 in fines, and 5 years on community control. Wow. Dr. Walker, what's your take on this? Is this a law against black people? Is this a law against students? How do you make sense of this law?
Yeah, I mean, him, sending that letter and using that law is a lesson the United States has not learned when it comes to trying to quell free speech. So he's using a law, talking about the KKK organization that terrorized and murdered black people for decades.
Right.
And then talking about suggesting that students who are mostly, but predominantly, protesting peacefully but covering their mouths, not to cover their identity, prevent COVID, among other challenges, suggesting that they are similar. And the last time I checked, when it comes to the Palestinian protests, certainly for the protesters, I don't remember them getting in cars and lynching black folks or terrorizing, burning down churches or black communities. So they certainly aren't similar. So any kind of referring to any law that it certainly references the KKK in any way, and suggesting that you're being able to protest is some kind of connected. It goes back to my point about when I said Jim Crow remix. Now, the students may disproportionately be impacted, maybe white, but it's a larger question about what is a democracy and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a number of universities and colleges in Ohio that have spoken to the press saying that they're either reviewing the law. Ohio State said that they're reviewing it. Kent State and several other universities said that they have no comment about this. And according to the spokesperson for Mr. Yost's office, Miss Bethany McCorkle, she said that the law regarding the disguise law was not a response to any specific request for legal advice by the universities. She said this was a letter that was a proactive guidance to universities that he is counsel for to make sure no one becomes an unintentional felon.
It's a threat. It's a threat.
It's a threat. It's a threat. And
Right.
and you know what? In our remaining moments, Dr. Walker, what do we take from all of this? Like, not just from the protests. We're looking at the 70 years since Brown versus Board of Education. I mean, and as you said this in the beginning of your statements. You're looking at all of this stuff that's happening in Florida with the banning of books and all of this. Our educational system and the educational landscape is pretty tense, and it's a lot of conflict. It's a lot of conflict. What kind of guidance can you assure black mothers and fathers and families in this country of how to navigate through all of these challenges now.
Yeah, so I think one of the things we have to understand that, anti-blackness in the United States is deeply rooted. I think you have to understand that because if you don't, then it makes it very difficult for you to navigate. But, as a black parent, my son is a college student now, and I worry for his well-being all the time, regardless of the kind of good person he is. But I think that, black parents have to continue to stay steadfast like we always have, but also understand that our biggest strength is community. And that we, like I said earlier, we have to strengthen our linkages, create new linkages, and we have to be prepared politically, socially, economically to address the challenges in today's society.
Absolutely. Dr. Larry Walker, it has been an extreme pleasure. It's a great honor to reconnect with you, dear brother, and I thank you so much for joining us here on Areva Martin in Real Time, and I look forward to reconnecting with you once again. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Absolutely. Folks, that is going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. Anastasia, you said they are going to use a KKK law against the students, but they never used it against the KKK themselves. How crazy does that sound? That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And I appreciate you for posting that, Anastasia. Corinna, I see you. Thank you for checking in, Corinna. My sister Corinna Denise. Culture Crew forever. Absolutely. I appreciate you, Corinna. But it says a lot about where we are in this country that we have to, even 70 years after Brown versus Board of Education, we're still fighting. I want y'all to think about that. We are still fighting to be seen, still fighting to be heard, and most importantly, we are still fighting to be educated. Look, tomorrow we're going to be right back at it, God willing. Make sure y'all check us out here on all of our social media platforms at KBLA 1580. Make sure you go to our website, download the app for free. And more importantly, I want you to join us back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another great set of conversations as we talk to newsmakers and all types of folks to continue to have these discussions right here on Areva Martin in Real Time here on KBLA 1580, and I thank you so much for tuning in. Up next is the RA Report with my sister, the Raw Report, Raw Report, because she's dope like that. She's the only one that can get it. The Raw Report with my sister, Robin Ayers. Stay tuned. It's KBLA 1580, where we're unapologetically progressive and we don't black down.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. New York City is preparing security for Pride Month events in June following a federal alert that terrorist organizations may target Pride Month. Mayor Eric Adams, who is black, says the city is taking it very seriously and prepares for those events. He says the police department is focusing on securing the Pride March, which takes place in late June, and monitoring social media.